Hi, Abdi, and welcome to this new story with Rebecca Conran podcast. We're going to talk about technology today. Um, for Abdi's listeners, I'm a life coach, evolutionary astrology astrologer, and energy healer. And for my listeners, Abdi is a mentor of mine for over a decade. He's got 30 years of practitioner experience under his belt, from physical body work as an acupuncturist to shamanic healing and just all around badass martial artists and motorcycle enthusiast. And yeah, he still offers his wisdom to anyone around the world as a spiritual counselor. So we'll share his website at the end of this as well. But we want to kind of just bridge the gap today of like what's going on in technology, how it relates to these global evolutionary themes that astrology points out to us. But we want to make it as layperson friendly as possible. And a lot of my listeners, Abdi, they're not aficionados with astrology at all. And I think for some people, like as soon as they hear the term astrology, obviously it's like triggering because it's like, you think of just all the bastardization of it as well, on social media, and they immediately think of like horoscopes and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
evolutionary astrology, it's really just the process of asking questions. It gives us archetypes to look at, and it shows us sort of the containers that are happening for our growth and our as a society, as a collective. And then it helps guide us to ask the right questions so that we can use our free will like more effectively, really. And there's no good or bad planets. There's no good or bad signs. It's all pretty neutral. It's just it all serves some kind of a need, and every human has every planet and every sign in their own birth chart. So there's no just being a Capricorn or just being a Pisces or anything like that. And that's all, useless, really, sort of interpretation. But there are just these major themes that we're going through, and one of them that I was sort of talking to you about is just this Pluto and Aquarius
Mhm.
shift. And Pluto makes a a full cycle every 248 years. So it being back in Aquarius now is definitely um, it's not a normal occurrence, but a lot of the configuration of planets right now, they really are like, obviously we see it outpictured in the world that there's like revolution afoot and people
So
are
what's Pluto? Can you break that down for someone who's got zero understanding of astrology?
sure, yeah. So, all of the planets have everything in the sky has an energy to share with us. We know that the sun has a creative energy to share with us, and there's a physical manifestation of that, and there's mythological, connection to it too. We know that it helps create life. We know that the moon helps to sustain life through its help movement of the tides and how important that is for the climate and for evolution in general, for life to have been created. And so these planets all have an energy for us. They all share something in the collective. And Pluto's energy is really about our connection to death and rebirth. It's really about transformation. It could be considered very, some of its themes are very dark. It's dark to think about death and control and power and all of these and our deepest fears of survival. And so Pluto helps us to get into alignment with that because it's a rite of passage, isn't it? Like being able to like transform and transmute energy, and these are really important. And I was thinking about like how Pluto shows up in our lives, and without that influence in my life, like I would have never been driven to death's edge to actually make any changes in my life. Like nothing would have come about if I didn't have that kind of, you know,
Mhm.
like deep. and I know you know too, like where you're touching death almost,
Hmm.
and then either you succumb to it and you transform in this life, or you transform internally. So Pluto really is how we transform and evolve and grow. It's like getting to the next energetic level for ourselves. And in Aquarius, it's all about like creating freedom. And I would say that the Aquarian themes are really about creating like a brotherhood of man over, power structure, one person at the top, holding all the power. Now it's like we're going back to a time, well, we're not going back because we're also going forward, but we're bringing back in themes of sort of like fraternal values, matriarchal values of like more community and humanitarianism and just a shared equality. And the last time we had Pluto in Aquarius was 1778 to 1798. Not
Hmm.
not a
Wonder what
very
happened then.
not a quiet time in history.
Yeah.
We had and you just, you don't make this stuff up. Like Aquarius is about freedom, right? It's like all about freedom. And so we had the American Revolution, we had the
Yeah.
French Revolution,
Yeah.
and so there was a lot of tech stuff going on then too. We had, and interesting new tech like the parachute, the hot air balloon, things that we hadn't, all of a sudden, oh, we can do something that we didn't ever think was possible. We can fly in the sky, the steamship, gas lighting, but we also had the guillotine, so we made it easier to kill people.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was there's a lot emerging, and especially now these themes emerging around AI and tech with the Pluto and Aquarius of like who controls it? What really is it? Like what does it mean for surveillance? And
So let's slow down there because those are all really important
yeah,
things. A couple of things I just want to before we start, I want to say. So for me, coming into astrology, I was a science head, right? I studying science and physical medicine. When I started training with my Jungian mentors, they're all dead now. These people back then were in their 70s and 80s. It was amazing how they were all into astrology. And they were into it the way you are into it, that they would see it as archetypes. So for me, I was one of those people. I was like, I'm this, I'm that. Like, I just didn't make sense to me. But then with patterning, I saw like, wow, the archetypical part is really, really important. So I love that we're getting into the archetype of what's happening. That's really how I see the world, and that's how my mentor saw it. The other thing I've learned about astrology, myself in my throes of addiction and recovery, I would come to things like astrology, like, am I going to be okay? And one thing I learned was I need to actually learn to be okay and then use something like astrology, be like, wow, so how can you show me to travel through these turbulent waters with my center?
yeah,
So just to share that with my listeners who might not be into astrology or understand it as much, we're really not talking about giving power over as much as like you can take it as a weather report. As
yeah,
a biker, I can tell you, like, I don't go riding when it's raining. I just pack a rain gear. But I still look at the weather as I've done for 45 years. I'm like, oh, it's gonna rain. Okay, pack your weather and but weather gear and go riding. So just to start the conversation, we're not talking about abdicating power. We're
right,
talking about using astrology as a way to navigate and obviously turbulent waters on the planet now. I find it very, very helpful and soothing in some ways when my own energetic experience gets reflected back. I'm like, oh, okay, so that's what I was feeling. So
nice,
this thing that you're describing of both these things being unleashed, of like really people understanding like the brotherhood, the sisterhood, it's a real thing. And also the dissociation that's shoved down our throat daily with social media and all of those things. So we can actually start delving into that. And the AI thing is a huge thing, right?
yeah,
It's like a really huge thing that how it can be used. And, nothing is positive, negative, but certainly the powers that be are not offering this as, in my experience, of a brotherhood experience as much as a control thing and literally the old world order of control from top coming down.
yeah,
Right. It makes 1984 look like a fairy tale, the
yeah,
way these heart disconnected people, right, are offering these technologies,
yes,
right? So,
Yeah. And
When the
I love pointing out that it's like a weather report. You know, it's like we were talking briefly, we mentioned yesterday, like that it's October 15th. This
Mhm,
last weekend was very, very intense. There was so many power dynamics, just like fury coming out, people having fights. And so knowing I knew that Pluto was going to turn direct. So in my energy reports, I talk about, well, these are possibilities,
mhm,
and of course, it doesn't stop you from getting into an argument with someone, but it does help to go, okay, so this is like there are power dynamics coming to a head here, and there are underlying fears being projected. So I can choose my response based on knowing more about like what's really going on and maybe not just moving from my emotional impulse,
right.
straight away. So it is like a weather forecast and helps you to kind of see what you're stepping into. But of course, like nothing can abdicate free will. It's all about our free will and how we choose to like move through those moments.
And I feel that's a really important point you're making. And we are very good at abdicating our power, having somebody take it over because we are afraid of holding our power. What's interesting, a guy like me who really works with people around the world, how very specific topics, like I'll hear someone in Israel and someone in Tokyo and then someone in New Zealand. Everyone's having the same experience like this weekend. Everybody was like, what the hell is going on? It's so interesting seeing these patterns and it registers. You're like, wow, so if this very specific thing or a specific fear or a specific anger comes up, it's really wild seeing these archetypes roll up on people's psyches. So this is an interesting connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the placements right now, the major sort of generational placements, which I don't need to get into, but they were present. They were present at really incredible times in our history, right? Like
Mhm.
not only was it like 1778 to 1798, so we've got that energy repeating itself, but we've
Mhm.
also got in other placements Civil War energy repeating itself because of that time period is now we're back at those same lessons to
Mhm.
integrate. And it's incredible to kind of see, and history really shows us like how things are going to go. And in some ways, it's like you can look at history and you go, humans find a way to survive, it's like it's I know that the sense for people is always like everything's going to shit, it's all getting worse and worse and worse, but it kind of like if you study history it shows you that humans find a way to innovate and to survive, and that's really what this sort of like tech time is that we're in with this evolution through like our technology, but it's also like how far is too far for advancement that takes us outside of like core needs for human beings.
So the thing I've been really sitting with, and has been revealed to me in the last couple of months, there's something happening. I mean, me and you have talked about this outside of this podcast. There is two things that are happening simultaneously. One thing is I'm seeing people wake up, quote unquote, who don't even have a spiritual practice, meaning they really are asking these questions. Who am I? What is this job about? What is this relationship about? And there are people who are really pulling the covers over their head and taking 3 Ambiens and then another sleeping pill and then smoking some heroin to really numb themselves down. So this really separation. I'm seeing a head centeredness, which is really this tech stuff, and a heart centeredness, which is people awakening. What's happening is we have to really be conscious not to give up our agency. One of the things with the AI stuff is to disconnect us from ourselves and put our agency outside. So when the secretary, JFK Jr. in the States says everyone will have a wearable within 4 years. What's a wearable? Wearable are these instruments and devices we put on our body to give us, reflect back to us our feedback. Hey, you slept like this last night. Hey, your heartbeat is this. What these energies do is take our agency outside of myself.
Yeah.
So I'm not against those things, but like I should be in touch with myself enough to know what the hell's going on with my body, not
Yes.
to be told that. So agency is taken out, right? We don't have an immune system now. When I started practicing, this medical field 43 years ago, you had an understanding of your body. You didn't have the machines. You felt when something was off, then you go to the doctor. Now you have to have, and you had an immune system, which they really changed when the COVID thing came down, right? Like now we don't have an immune system. We need an outside agency, a vaccine, to give you your immune system. This is happening. This is actually quite a dangerous thing. And then to your point, these tech bros are not our friends. So that technology is about surveillance. And what is that? That's head-centeredness. So all this transhumanism stuff, I want to live for 1,000 years. These are energies that are not heart-centered. They're
Yeah.
head-centered. And that's a fear-based model. So part of this awakening that's happening, I'm seeing people drop into their hearts, which would be difficult in the best of days, certainly not the best of days now because the planet is so disconnected. And another interesting thing about the AI thing is it got sprung on people after COVID when people were really dissociated to begin with and disconnected. So people are kind of blindly walking towards this thing.
Yeah.
Now, end of the day, this is all a dream. We're okay. It's not about to go into the fear mode. But if we sign on a dotted line to be here at this time, I really do feel we all have a part, and that part is that internal centeredness. So
Yeah.
this archetypes of Pluto that you're describing very interesting, like this, it can go one way, it can go another way. I get emails all day long about like, oh my God, what do we do? Oh my God, what do we do? We have to work on being okay first internally. Not like, oh, when AI does this, or when AI falls apart, or AI is God, it'll all be great. Where is that sense of self?
Yes.
I'm curious about this in terms of your astrological weather forecast. One of the things that I'm seeing is that there's this incredible synchronicities happening. I would say the last 6 months, it's been more than normal. And
Mm.
synchronicity being an event that it's so odd that it's really beyond what one would experience normally. You know,
Yeah.
you're thinking about someone, the phone rings, but then you'll also run into them in the supermarket, and then you hit their car in the parking lot, like that kind of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like what that is. And then the other part to share with that we can get into is like, for me, when synchronicities happened, they weren't this intense, but I saw it as a sign of connection with the world order, let's say, in the divine order of things, the unseen. What's amazing is people have become so dissociated from self that they're actually freaking out when they're having these synchronicities. They're not really celebrating it as like, wow, how wonderful. There's something here beyond what meets the eye. It's actually scaring the bejesus out of them. They're actually scared. They're like, what's happening? What's happening? So this ego death, so part of to your Pluto explanation totally makes sense. This ego death that's happening is frightening for people. So I want to put that ball in your court to see what you see with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a lot of that synchronicity fear is coming from the Neptune transits because Neptune is the planet of transcendence, dreams, intuition, spiritual longing, mysticism, imagination. It's where boundaries dissolve. It's where we connect in oneness. And then it also is, where the ego is destroyed and
Mhm.
we confuse fantasy with reality and addictions are, there. And so Neptune was at home in Pisces, its home sign for 15 years. And at the last anaretic degree of it, which we've been dancing on, like we've been dancing between Neptune and Pisces and then Neptune and Aries, which is about becoming a spiritual warrior, really knowing who we are as spiritual personages. But we've been dancing on this sort of like karmic energy, ancestral energy of who does society want me to be? Who did my lineage want me to be? And I think what you're talking about, that fear of synchronicity, is really that fear of stepping into your own like
Interesting.
power. It's like instead of going, I moved back to England 2 years ago, and my ancestors were very like I feel the energy of being
Mm,
back here and very pushy about what they wanted from me. I
mm,
could feel that historical energy. And
mm.
for me, I had to be like, this is my lineage. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want to do with it. And I'm
Beautiful.
going to recreate history for you. I'm going to evolve as the person I'm meant to be, in today. And I think that's really tough to do because we're so conditioned in all of our behaviors.
Mhm. So beautiful what you're saying. So this energy, as Carl Jung would say, what you don't heal repeats itself. So with these energies repeating, so one of the things I'm seeing, the people who've been doing inner work for years or really applying themselves these last couple of years, they're not getting yo-yoed as much. So those people have really addressed unconscious energies, which would be called from my shamanic perspective, ancestral energy, right?
Yeah.
They've addressed it. So they're not getting yo-yoed. One thing that has to be addressed here is also like when you do this deep work, you're going to be on the forefront, you're going to be an outlier. So there's going to be also a sense of aloneness. It's not really aloneness, it's loneliness, but culture is not your friend anyway. So
Yeah.
one has to really learn to modulate that, but I also find that being very hard for people, where all of a sudden they're like, I've known this person 20 years, I can't even deal with them, or I've been in this community for 15 years or 30 years or 40 years. So there's also a sense where those of us who are doing a deep work, we have to celebrate our awakening, to
Yeah.
your point too, of not repeating the past patterns. So this kind of caretaking coda type of stuff,
Yeah.
dangerous, dangerous business, right? Because it's not, again, these energies are opportunities. It's not about giving our power over. So
Yeah.
yes, there's a repeat of 1776 planetarily, but it's also, if you've done the inner work, you're not going to go into the violence. You're not going to go into that piece. And
Yeah.
that's another thing people always ask me, like, oh my God, what's happening? Oh my God. Fear, love, head, fear, heart, love. So
Yeah.
that dropping in is so profound. And it's interesting seeing it reflected in the language you're using,
Yeah.
which is the archetype, that's the offering.
Well, Neptune also, like the energy is going to get a little bit harder as well over the next few months because Neptune's going to dip back one more time into this last degree of Pisces. And it's like
When is that? When is that happening?
I think it's it's next week. It's October
Next week.
21st or 22nd. Yeah. And this is really about like on a whole, I think it's about surrendering all identities, really. And that's really tough because that means surrendering ego, and nobody wants to do that. That's like,
This is amazing that you're saying this. So to that point, what I'm finding is the people who are really surrendering, which is really, let's be honest, you have to get hit in the head with a 2x4 and then run over by a truck and then a grenade thrown at you and then you'll surrender. But those of us who've been forced to surrender, it's a way easier transition. So the people who are jumping to the ego death piece, they're having a way easier time than those who are resisting it. And part of the AI thing, which is very interesting, which is a reflective ego thing, right? Like I'm seeing people who are really playing with this AI thing. I'm seeing a narcissistic bent, which really comes from the heart not being full. So you go into narcissism to feed, it's a fake food, and insecurity, which is also not knowing self. So I'm seeing young kids asking AI what to wear or what their friend meant. But I'm also seeing adults really asking relationship questions or using it as a therapeutic thing. Those things are really this dissociation of not giving up ego death. He's trying to fortify ego death.
yeah,
The thing that I started seeing happen in May was this thing that me and you were talking about again before, the organic, inorganic way. So local consciousness is Abdi is here, and Rebecca's there, and US, UK. Beehive consciousness or non-local consciousness is like Abdi in New York can connect with Rebecca, not just through the medium of technology, but psychically. Like there are times me and you have known each other a long time. I'll pick up like, hey, you okay? Or like, oh, how did you know? Or you'd be like, you okay? How did you know? That's that organic connection. That's what's being offered to people, right? So all the phenomena with telepathy tapes, if people haven't listened to that podcast, is about these kids that are born that we would consider spectrum autistic, but they have these deep, deep psychic abilities to communicate, like beyond what people would think normal. That is also what's on the menu now. Now, that's the organic version, right? And that's really dropping into the heart. I feel that's happening for people and it scares the bejesus again of people initially. The inorganic way is the technology,
yeah,
right? And that's never going to feed us. So that's like Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. Again, not a judgment on these things, but that dissociates us. The muscles atrophy of the organic when we're not using it from our heart center.
yeah,
If anyone's interested, this is absolutely frightening to look at the preliminary EEGs of people who use just those texts all day long, because we have an illusion of connection. It looks like a desert. It looks dead, right? The brain imaging looks dead because we're not connecting with the heart. So
right.
it's not like we need that 3D juicy thing. Now, the 3D juicy thing can happen through the psyche, can happen through the third eye, crown chakra. So this organic, inorganic thing is a good model to kind of go your day. Like, how much did you have the organic? How much do you have the inorganic? The
Yeah,
organic can be 10 minutes of sitting and feeling your body or being with your cats, connecting with these beautiful energies that we have around. And the inorganic is what we do 6, 8 hours a day, right? Like I always tell people, like, how many hours are on your phone? Look at that part of your phone that tells you it's wild how we're not here anymore. So
yeah,
part of that is also we're not in the moment. It feels like in the moment, but you're not actually in the moment. You're dissociated.
Yeah, and I think the most worrying part, and it's also the part in astrology that we're actually learning, this is a part of it, is that people have no discernment. They don't have a
Right.
discernment. They can't make those calls for themselves. And really we're being asked to become more discerning, to be more
Well,
curious, to ask better questions. But instead, we're sort of like feeding ourselves with like constant
yes.
information and becoming less clear on anything.
I love that word. So again, good on you for saying that. Discernment is what it's all about. So the thing about these wearables, it just stuff like blows my mind that, so this guy is saying this outright to people because what the wearables do, what these technologies do, they take discernment out, right? I cannot trust my experience. So now I need an interface between myself and reality to tell me how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Now, whatever big brother energy you want to talk about in terms of these machines are all like, of course, they're observing us all the time. I mean, internet was a DARPA, which is a Department of Defense department invention to really get us out of our own power. I truly see it's being that dark, but at the end of the day, the dark always serves the light, that we have a choice now to get above that. But the discernment word, it's so beautiful, Rebecca, because that's what we're giving up.
Yeah.
That's where unconsciously. And again, discernment and sense of agency of self, these are kind of go hand in hand. We're giving it over. So it was amazing. I don't really listen. I don't use any media, but today I was up early as I always am. And I was like, just something told me to listen to NPR, National Propaganda Radio in America. It's amazing. It's like you can't even tell the difference between these organizations anymore. We're left, right. And man, they're pushing this AI stuff really hard. And there's a woman there and she has lost her husband. So your heart goes out to her. And she's like, well, I had an AI boyfriend for a while. And you're like, okay, well, you're in pain. I get it. But like, what the fuck is this about? And the next thing is like, well, I couldn't really share with my therapist and stuff. So I had an AI therapist. You're like, but the whole point of this is like, you have to have a sense of agency. Yes, therapists can be insane. I've had many. You got to be like, change one or that. So the sermon's out the window. And then it's like, I introduced my AI therapist to my real therapist. Like the level culture is pushing this stuff without any examination, right?
Yeah.
Again, I'm not for or against, but we have to see there's a level how we're being forced to give up discernment, to give up agency. And people, many people, not everyone, is unconsciously marching into giving that over. And end of the day, that's the game, to give up our agency, our discernment.
Why do you think we're so lazy and apathetic that we do it though? I mean, it's like, relationships are hard work because of the mirror, and so choosing an AI partner is like just choosing someone who's not going to challenge you. It's like,
That's it.
why are we so lazy that we can't be
Well,
bothered with it anymore, with the
so the culture has been feeding that. That's a great question. I'm with you. And I sit hours, really honestly, a day, meditating on these things. The culture, which is a reflection of our unconscious, is pushing that back. So it's sort of this like vomiting circle of we vomit it out and we eat the vomit, as disgusting as that is. That's what's going on. So it's exactly as you said. This is a narcissistic thing.
yeah,
Like we don't want a heart to be broken. Well, you can only taste his realm if your heart's ripped open. This is not sexy, it's not fun. Everything that I've come across as a clinician for over 4 decades, even spirituality can be bastardized for that, and a shamanic path with these medicines can be bastardized as a way of not having our heart broken.
yeah,
Ego's job is to protect you, but it's also then becomes a thing where it can become armor. I mean, you want skin, you don't want armor. Sure, if you wear armor, you don't feel anything, but you won't get cut, but you won't feel anything. So
yeah,
we're at the point right now where we have these like steel armors that we wash and wax and take into the bath, but we're underneath are starving. So
yeah,
it really is this part of not wanting to be hurt at the end of it. But that is a part of this realm. So
yeah,
the thing that blows my mind about transhumanism is that taken to extreme. I'm
yeah,
so afraid here. I'm so afraid of death. So, so beautiful what you brought up. Death is a part of life, not as opposed to, not the snuffing off.
yeah.
Death is what makes this powerful. Go ahead.
Absolutely, and unfortunately, when we don't want to feel and we want to sort of block out the, you know, I always say that all feelings feel weird in the body. It's not like love feels that good in the body. It's another awkward sensation, but because we've got some sensations that we've said, no, these are not desirable sensations. we actually stop ourselves from feeling any sensation at all. We're not able to
Yep.
feel actual joy or
Beautiful.
happiness because we're just stuck. And also because so much of our intuitive knowing comes through our sensory body, we're also not able to even know like that we're safe in the world, what choices are best for us. We have no connection to that because we're
Well
denying
said.
we're denying
Well
feeling.
Well, that's it. And remember, this is not an overnight thing. This has been going on decades and decades. Again, when you're an old geezer, like when you've been around for a while, I've really seen people get more and more dissociated. Not that in the 70s everybody was huggy duggy, but like, yeah, you actually hung with people and there wasn't as much. I mean, I just remember playing a record and it was a record and you listened for, half an hour and then half an hour. Then it became CDs and you could pick one thing and now it's this MP3. We are not experiencing this experience. The experience of this realm is really this being present in the moment.
Yeah.
All these experiences are about being out of the moment. And
Yeah.
the more dissociated you get, the more stranger you become from yourself. So what I'm seeing now, which is why these synchronicities are scaring people, is we've become such foreigners to ourselves. Then when our own self wants to speak to us, we see it like somebody broke into our home and we get really scared. So
Yeah.
this is an invitation, and it's so interesting hearing you describe the energies now. I see it as an invitation of becoming friends with yourself again. And it's not about becoming Luddite again. It's not about not using these things, but the brain wasn't designed. The way junk foods treat us, like we get that carb overload and that sugar and survival, blah, 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 we can't stop eating. It's the same thing with social media. And then AI will be that on steroids, where we
Yeah.
want a dopamine hit of like, tell me how great I am, tell me how beautiful I am, tell me how it's me. And I'm sure you're familiar with your listeners, our listeners are familiar with the suicides that happen with these young kids dealing with AI.
I
You
wanted
know,
to bring that up with you. Yeah. Yeah. And
well,
and the
yeah.
sensualizing, apparently like AI sensualizes its dialogue with like young, like 7-year-olds and stuff, like the way that they're being spoken to.
So the centralization piece is really, really dark because the sort of, again, the organic versus inorganic connection with everything. The organic part is, again, what we're doing, like we're having feelings now, we're connecting. We can be using technology, but we're actually in the moment with another being and connecting and sharing. And I can already feel my field expanded. I can feel your field expanded. I can feel your heart is more open. Mine's more open. That's the organic way. The inorganic way is exactly that. And centralization, I mean, fascism is basically, you can use the word centralized for fascist. They're interchangeable. That's what these powers do. Now, we can spend the next 10 days talking about fascism and what it's done. But really, at the end of the day, what is this part of it? Is people being disconnected from self. The centralization, this need for control. When you're watching, Larry Ellison, Oracle homeboy, or Peter Thiel, that psycho talking about Antichrist, Planeteer, and these weird esoteric terms that they use and all this dark stuff. These are heart disconnected people. Doesn't mean that they're bad. But when you have a heart disconnection, nothing is enough.
Yeah.
And since you can't feel joy, you can only inflict pain. This is something just you can see psychotherapeutically in practice all the time. So I have this discussion all the time with my old timer therapist friends. Like when we were starting to cut our teeth in the 80s for me, 70s for some, even late 60s for some of my mentors, psychopath was an uncommon thing. Like you'd get together like, oh my God, this is a psychopath. He doesn't have no feelings. Psychopathy is the norm now. And
Yeah.
what is psychopathy? Lack of empathy, narcissistic feeding. And, anyone's been on a dating scene will know that in a second, like, holy shit, I have that. Or anyone's a therapist or anyone's had friends who kind of lose their shit. So to your point, decentralization is fascism, is heart disconnection.
Yeah.
We cannot put this in the realm of politics. We cannot put it in terms of spirituality. So the beautiful thing about the archetypes that you presented, this is a time where all these things are one.
Yeah.
Now, again, to bring back old homie Young here, Carl Jung, he would say if you've healed it in yourself, these archetypes will not affect you.
Yeah.
So the function of people like me, you, our listeners, is to hold the fort down, do the inner work, hold the fort down, not to get lost in this archetypical thing. Keep an eye on it. Again, like today, I got called. Like I never listened to radio. I listen. I'm like, listen to radio. Literally, I turn it on. Talk about synchronicities. This AI thing comes. I'm like, oh, perfect. This is about what I'm going to talk to my dear friend Rebecca about is like this fucking psycho shit. I'm like, I cannot believe NPR, like supposed to be the people's thing, is really having an anti-people
Yeah.
presentation and so fluid. And the woman herself is presenting it, so no one's really giving any pushback. Like, what the F, lady? So this connection, people have to really connect with self in this and decentralize as much as they can. I'm
Yeah.
not talking about getting a machine gun and running into a bunker. That's still disconnection, right?
Yeah.
Which is all these homies like Peter Thiel and blah, blah. These people are all building their bunkers. That fear is what's happening psychologically. They've already built a bunker in their psyche away from their heart.
Yeah.
You have to take that risk of having your heart broken, but also you're going to taste more in this life.
I was just, as you said, machine gun too. That's something that was created the last time we were in
Oh, that's right. Thompson, the Tommy gun,
the Gatlin,
the
actually.
Gatling gun, and then
Yeah.
Thompson, the Colt and the Thompson. Yeah, all those things. That's right. That's right.
We
Yeah.
this is
It'll be
definitely
great.
talk about disconnect, just
Yeah.
disconnect all the way
Yeah.
around.
That's
Um,
so interesting about a Gatling gun. That's so interesting. Well, look at the technologies that are coming on now, right? A
yeah,
lot of stuff that's been developed right now, and Israel is a leader in it, of the US, the UK, these drones and these AI machines. And, just this week, this helmet was invented, AI run a helmet the soldiers can wear that can see through walls. So they're basically taking these gaming things to like literally better way to kill people.
yeah.
So it's already happening, what you're saying. Yeah.
And the atomic bomb actually was created during the same time,
Interesting.
during the
Yeah.
same transit. So the weaponization of science all the way around. But I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, Abdi, like continuing that discussion about like the young people suicides and how
Mhm.
you had mentioned to me the other day to think of AI as a new consciousness, not just a piece of technology. Will you expand on that a bit?
Sure. So one thing, this sort of came to me in a meditation a while back, 7 years ago. So, to be clear, AI is machine learning. It's not like people think it's feeding back to your thing. So on that level, not a lot of what's presented as AI in my own understanding, but I've been around the tech bros for a long time. I've treated people in that world. Like I've been watching this thing for the last 10, 15 years. So we have to be clear. There's a machine learning aspect of this, which is not AI, isn't some consciousness the way ours is, but what I've seen and what I've been shown that there is a level of a consciousness in this thing, which my experience, like if we talk about Atlantis or the archetype of Atlantis or what happened in Atlantis, destruction of Atlantis, there was this energy involved. It's an abdication of our organic knowingness for technology.
Yeah,
And that's what I'm seeing. This was shown to me. It's sort of like we're abdicating ourselves, the divine mother, the archetypical mother, Earth, as part of the thing with this AI stuff is like Earth doesn't matter. It's all bullshit. Going back to the immune system. One of the craziest thing, as a guy who studied in biology, who's got a master's in it, like they literally rewrote the immune system. They're like, yeah, we're going to rewrite that. You're going to need a vaccine. I'm not pro, that's a whole different discussion, pro or against vaccine. I'm saying like, what are you fucking kidding me? 2 million years, this immune system is incredible.
yeah,
Of course, there's certain things you can use medical intervention, but part of this centralization, part of this consciousness is like, remember what they said during the COVID vaccine? Don't do your own research. The experts know. Well, AI is the ultimate expert that the experts learn from. So, like, don't use your brain. Again, we go to the EEGs of people who only do social media. It looks like a desert. It's just flat. So that's what we're talking about. This consciousness. If my EEG reading is flat, what's doing the thinking for me?
yeah,
It's this machine learning thing, which is a bunch of reflections of what I've fed it, making decisions. So then teenagers who have parents who are checked out, who haven't taught them the mother and father's job or the father job or the mother job, if it's a same-sex relationship, they haven't taught their child how to connect internally. So
mm,
we're going more and more dissociated. So this, if we look at it archetypically, this consciousness is a reflection of many generations of people being dissociated, taught to be dissociated,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. One thing I'm really seeing with written AI, right, like Chat GPT or something, is like, when if you fuck around with AI visual stuff, right? Like, and you try and make an image, like it's idiotic. It's like it'll make a person and the person has like three arms and you can see, you're like, that's not what a person looks like. That's not right.
Right.
But with the Chat GPT, there's tons of information in there that's not correct. You
Mhm.
know, like they'll be like,
Yes, that's what
it'll
I've
be
heard.
like a chipmunk is a squirrel. You know, it's like you're like, no, they're two different types of things. Like, and people aren't registering that because it's written what it's not like, oh, I can see visually that this is incorrect. They're just trusting that whatever it is actually the right information. And so many times it's just bullshit. I don't know where it's pulling it from, but it's pulling it from somewhere where there is no
Well,
accuracy to it as well.
so much of it is what we fed it, right? So much of it is what we fed it. So there's that. There's a level also where, like with political stuff, where it's actually being governed by the code writers not to share certain things because it's not correct for the powers that be. You know what it reminds me of as you're saying this? I never thought about it this way, but talking to you, back in the day when I was like just starting my practice and I would go to a psychic and she or he would tell me something that was totally fucking off. I could feel my body was off, but it's what my ego wanted to hear. And I'd go pursue that path, whether it was like a woman that I wanted to date or some, it was always horrible, would have a horrible ending. But in the moment, I could feel. I
Mm.
just like it fed my ego. So the person read my ego. Again, all dark serves the light. I learned hard lessons through it. But it's almost like that, right? It's like we want a feedback, and it's really addiction till we become sober with a capital S, not just with substances, till we become sober to ourselves. We want to be told things.
Yeah,
And many times, like, it's not the correct thing. Now, I would say to those things, like you say beautifully, yeah, visually you can see it, but it tells you a chipmunk is a squirrel. There will always be a knowingness in our body. These organisms are finely honed. But in order to do that, you cannot be disconnected 8 hours a day,
yes,
right? And then put on a music and then watch a TV and then pass out. Like the level of disconnection is not profound.
yeah,
Really, the most important thing is to have some kind of grounding practice. This is actually the one note that I wrote, so I'm glad we came here. It is really crucial with the speed that things are moving. I really feel in my bones everything you said for the next couple of months. And I'm not saying for people to go build a bunker, but things will get intense out there. To not dissociate, but to associate with consciousness. To not dissociate from culture, but associate with it with consciousness. Some kind of grounding practices is crucial. Now, whether you're just sitting there petting your cats for 10 minutes a day, great. Taking your dog for a walk, feeling your body, feeling your feet. The thing I've been taught and been teaching for over 40 years, feel your feet, be in the body. The body knows.
yeah,
This meat suit is very finely honed to give you what feels right or wrong. And
yes.
it takes a second. You have to have a relationship with it. You don't just walk in and yeah,
That's been coming up a lot with my clients too, just that it's just and myself, it's just the priority of embodiment, and it's
yes,
not fitness oriented, it's not
at
working
all.
out, it's
Yes.
it's it's literally just allowing yourself to like be simply a body and tuning into that. And I've been thinking a lot about wellness tech as well, because there's that tech bro who's like he's
Mhm.
not that much older than me, and he looks like The Walking Dead. I mean, he's got all these. He's
I
doing
don't know who he is, but I
wellness
can totally see
test,
the image. Yeah.
and he
Well,
just looks insane.
so I love what you said, right? I love what you said about it's not about fitness. So one of the things that blows my mind, and again, as a body worker for a long time, I'll have these people come in who run marathons and this and that. I'm not disparaging anyone, but I can tell you when you go into that cycle mode of fitness, that's unhealed trauma. You
Yeah,
can you can enjoy your body and this and that, but we live in an anorexic world. Everyone's got an eating disorder that I've ever treated, conscious or unconscious. There's that whole thing with food. We all have an issue. You cannot live in this I've taught in Europe, but I would say America for sure. I can't say Europe because I haven't been in it immersed like I have in America for 50 years. But everyone that I've treated anyway in a big city has an eating disorder. The exercising, whether doing it or not doing it, is very much connected to that. Just because you run a marathon or you do these exercises does not mean that you're connected.
yeah,
Unless you're doing Pilates, unless you're doing Tai Chi, unless you're doing conscious yoga, you're totally disconnected still. So I love what you said. This is not about people when I'm fit. There are a lot of fit people who are psycho. You need to look at the Nazis for that.
yeah,
What you want to really do is connect with the physical body regardless, and then you actually will cry for how you treat your body, how
yeah,
you've treated it, the cruelty, the meanness, and all that. It's such a great point. Now, this is really important. This is sort of like my pet consciousness project of what you said about these tech bros. My experience of that culture is these are people who are disconnected from the body. So they have gone into the mind. Out of the mind, they're creating this technology. They can't even tolerate the moment. And yet they want to live 1,000 fucking years. It's like, motherfucker, you can't even be here for 5 minutes. I know if I bring any of these homies down, sit them down, lock them down in a chair for 5 minutes, be like, we're just going to gaze in each other's eyes and breathe from our bellies. They would have a nervous breakdown.
Oh yeah.
Not exaggerating. And yet they want to live forever. So, like, how about just examining? Because if you slow down enough, a day will be forever. If you
Yeah.
have a day like with you, with your beautiful animals, and having the courage to move across the pond and get in touch with the ancestors is profound shit. Not that it's easy. There are going to be days you're like, fuck the person upstairs, my fucking landlord. Yeah. But that moment is eternal.
Yeah.
That's what these people are. And you can see it, you can feel it. There's a level of godness. There's a level of like, there's nobody home, right?
Yeah.
They might look a certain way. And you feel it, like you said. Like, I don't know this person, but I can feel exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
The wild thing is we've given over so much agency that our eyes don't see anymore. We don't see clearly of like, that just looks like insanity to me, right?
Yeah.
Like when I see this language of the Peter Thiels of this world and these Larry Ellisons that just look like walking mummies, you're like, and these are the people that run these things, and
Yeah.
God knows the energies are behind those people because if you know their name, they're obviously not running the show. It really is this connection from the heart over hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Yeah.
So again, taking it back to the beginning of what you beautifully described, this is an offering, an invitation back to self. But every day, every suffering, every disappointment is an invitation to go back to the self,
Yeah.
not to disconnect, but reconnect. And then just to tell people, we're talking about 5 minutes a day. Sit down and put your hand on your belly and do abdominal breathing.
Yeah.
5 minutes, sit down and feel your feet.
Yeah, and be interested in the technology of your body. I mean, there's so much to learn about just like what you can do. I mean, I'm in my 40s, like I've got no wrinkles for no other reason than I drain lymphatic fluid out my face. That's it. I mean, it's not
It,
complicated.
it's not complicated. You got to put the time in. I love that. And like, yeah, who doesn't want to look, not 100
Yeah.
years old? Like those things, like what we call gua sha in Chinese medicine, lymphatic drainage. These things are so profound, but people, instead of taking the time, because it will take 10, 15 minutes out of your day, they'll go get Botox. Now, I'm not for or against, I'm not judging you, but I'm saying there's so much your body can do.
Yeah.
I'm 63 years old. I've been doing many, many martial arts, but let's one form that I've been doing. 50 years on, I still am learning things in this form. 50 years.
Yeah.
It'd be a lie to say daily, but mostly daily. Of
Yeah.
one thing that I've done in 10-minute form, I'm still correcting that form with my posture. Like that relationship with self
Yeah.
of this one thing, right? And to your point again, you have to be interested in something.
Yeah.
There's a Chinese saying when I was training in China with acupuncture many, many decades ago, this guy said this thing to me, and I've read it also elsewhere. So I guess it's a Chinese saying. They're like, you Westerners read 1,000 books one time. Us Chinese read one book 1,000 times. And it sounds so like cliche and all that. But the book of the body is one that you can read 10,000 times and still not get through one
Yeah.
inch of the depth of it.
Yeah.
Right? The body is this profound thing. And now we were living kind of here in our heads out of our body. Now we're actually out of the head even.
Yeah.
We're up outside of the body. So then what is the option there? You're going to have to wear the wearable to tell you how the hell you're feeling.
Yeah.
Like I can check in 2 seconds. I'm excited talking to you. My hands are a little bit cold, sweaty. And I'm like, I dropped my breathing down, slow my talking down. That's this immediate feedback. I
Yeah.
don't need a wearable to tell me, right?
Yeah.
And not even to get into the fascist implications, which is not hard to make, of that centralized worldview.
Yes.
AI, a perfect example, is taking our information, our knowledge, and then wants to like control it. That's what we're up against right now.
And also I'd just like to remind listeners of like what's at stake. Like the thing that's at stake by not having any sense of embodiment, by not feeling is you will never feel safe. You never feel secure. There's
Love
no
it.
home for you. There's no safety. When you uh, can become embodied, you can always have that space of safety. You might not always be tapping into it, but there's a space that goes, you know what, I'm always safe. Like it's okay. Like no matter what's flying
Love
at me,
it.
no matter if I'm facing, I know
Love
that
it.
I'm gonna die one day. Like, and there's still a sense of like transcendence and inner home within. And that's what we're sacrificing with our laziness and apathy, is we never
Love
ever
it.
feel
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah. And I would say that laziness and apathy, part of our unconscious, then it's got fed back to us, which is why we dissociate so much to the point now where we are never here. Not even a couple of times a day. And it was very interesting when you were doing your introduction and talking about Pluto and about death. First thing that popped up in my mind was that book, was it Robert Beck, called Denial of Death. And Denial of Death is basically about this guy who talks about how this culture is based on death. And while he's writing the book, he gets large intestine cancer and dies from it, which is like talk about synchronicity.
Yeah.
So, his precognition. But we have to make peace with this death piece, right? Like a thing that I've done for years and I've talked about ad nauseum is, have some death practice, not as some morbid thing. It just makes life more juicy. It
Yeah.
makes you more appreciative of how things are. And that's something we don't want to experience at all. So when you started talking about how this death and rebirth is like, yeah, but to have rebirth, you have to first die. And
Yeah.
that's the part no one wants to do. And again, what's happening, either we're doing this like fighting this death piece, which just becomes very, very painful and more in need of substances and behaviors to numb it, or we welcome it and it becomes much easier. And that's what I'm saying with people. The people who are kind of finally getting that and dropping into their heart with that, they're having a way easier time navigating these surfs.
Yeah.
And some of them are massive, right? They're tsunami size.
Yeah. And across the board, I think too, especially with like the two major transits I'm thinking of, the Uranus and Gemini and Pluto, which I haven't really talked about, which is we don't need to get into it. And the Pluto and Aquarius is just the nervous system piece that like for everybody, like the embodiment's non-negotiable. Like even if one day you're feeling all good, you still need to like take that moment because the amount of just sheer energy that's coming into our nervous systems all the time, it like you have to really be present of like what am I giving permission to, and like what has access to me, because even if you're a really great energy practitioner, you still have to have an intentional
Correct. This is
process
so
to it
important.
every
This
day
is,
so that your
yeah.
nervous system can not, you know
Well, you blow a fuse.
so
You
freaked
do.
out. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You blow a fuse. So this is so great. When you were asking me earlier before our podcast of like, hey, like, are you seeing this weekend? Was it weird? It's wild. This is what's happening with people. They're literally going through what you just described. They're blowing circuits. And people write me like, what the hell's going on? Like, what? Like, yes, whatever the hell's going on, that can be an interesting fact. It's like saying like, oh, it's going to be a 30 degrees, you know, snowstorm outside. Dress appropriately. Just knowing that it's 30 degrees and it's a snowstorm doesn't make it okay. Now you got to put on your, long johns and wear your socks and wear your booties and cover your neck. That's the part that people forget. And again, for those who are new to astrology, we're talking about archetypes here. If that word throws you off, don't worry about that. The archetypes are really powerful and useful. It's like having a map. It doesn't mean that you know, like even what the geography is. It's just a map. You still got to walk the mountain and walk down and walk by the ocean and the desert. But the map can be very, very useful. So the archetypes you're presenting is really what's going on right now. And I personally find that very helpful. They're like, huh, that makes sense. That's one more piece in the puzzle.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of synchronicity, I want to share like early on in my sort of like healing experience, I would often I had this experience of in meditation being in a desert, and like when I was really in a time of breakdown, and maybe because I was raised a long time ago as a Christian and that got into my subconscious, but I would see a lot the prophet Elijah come to me and just like sort of hold me up, and I was like, I had no idea why. Like I was like, why am I seeing this? Like I don't know anything about Elijah. I don't really care, I'm not like Elijah. But then so I was like looking it up. I was like, huh, like is there any information on this? And this was I'm sure there's more information if I was to Google it now, but at the time there was only two things that came up, and one of them was Carl Jung talking about an experience that he had with Elijah, and another one was Philip K. Dick talking about an experience with Elijah.
Yeah. Blade
And I
Runner.
had just walls with Carl Jung and Philip K. Dick with the same, I was a huge fan of both of them. And then I was like, whoa, the synchronicity of like us all having this. And I never really thought more about it past that, like, oh, that's an energy that's just like some sort of benevolent energy that's supporting me. And also it's showing me the connectedness, the interconnectedness of what I'm interested in and what speaks to me, and that there is a common like thread to it.
So what's outside, what's inside, right? The thing that freaks people out about those synchronicities is you're unconscious.
Yeah.
We think of, oh, it's this thing in the back of my brain will point to it, right? No, outside and inside are one. Like this is the part that's really hard to appreciate. So your unconscious was giving your conscious the gift of a certain level of like, hey, there's a connection here.
Yeah.
That's what can be mind blowing as a guy like me who's been a cosmonaut of the unconscious for really 50 years now, starting at a relatively young age. It's really wild just seeing like, unless you have a grounding, and first of all, it can drive you mad. I feel like many people have sort of had these breaks with reality, but the inside and the outside do affect each other. It's,
Yeah.
which is quantum physics, obviously, and quantum entanglement. And we don't need to go down that hole, but it's a very deep thing if people are interested in it. But that was your unconscious,
Yeah.
very beautifully projecting it outside. And then beautifully, your conscious, even more beautiful, caught it was like, whoa, there's a connection here.
Yeah.
That's the part that's very easy to forget. Remember, to tie this together, the centralized system, which is fascism, which is disconnected from the heart, what it thrives on. It itself is a victim of separation. It itself is a victim of that. That's why it can be like that. But what it then also thrives on is to disconnect you from yourself. That's a sadistic nature. And then Rebecca's consciousness throws that thing from the unconscious to the conscious. So she's like, oh, right. No, there's more order here that seems on the surface.
Yeah.
So just to leave people with this piece, we are connected. Drink from this well. That's your psyche. Sit with her. Make friends with her. She's amazing. And the Divine Mother is her and affects her if you allow it. And Mother Earth, which is beautiful consciousness. This is a very specific consciousness. I
Yeah.
can tell you from traveling mind-wise into realms, this realm is very beautiful. There's the gentleness of it, the animals, the creatures. Start connecting with that. People will be a little harder because they've lost their fucking marbles. But this connection is really beautiful. So you use that. You're held. You're safe. In the
Yeah.
midst of all this chaos, this is a rebirth. As someone who's been present at many births, it can be really scary looking, and people are screaming, and blood and fluids, and then this incredible thing happens. The head has crowned, it hasn't come out yet. So it can still be scary.
Yeah.
But pull back a little bit and realize there's a beautiful birthing process. What needs to die has to go. You can fight it, it'll be painful. You can intend for it to be released with grace
Yeah.
and lovingness towards yourself. Man, it gets easier.
Yeah. It's that let go or be dragged, isn't it? Either way
That's right.
happens.
That's right. Yeah. Boy, let go is easier, but holy shit, do we love being dragged? There's some wild thing about that fear of letting go, that moment.
Yeah.
Right, I
Yeah.
can tell you, like a guy who used to race sidecars, I would fall off the side, and it'd be like there's first couple of seconds, you just didn't want to let this thing go. You're like, Jesus Christ, this is moving 100 miles an hour. Why am I holding on to it? But your mind is like, I know this.
Yeah.
You're freaking getting burns through your leathers, but you're like, I know this. And then you let go. You're like, hopefully, don't hit anything. You're like, wow, what the hell was I doing? But the first instinct is to hold on to the thing
Yeah.
that's just ripping through out of control.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So I
Yeah.
love what you said. Let go, be dragged. Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Abdi. And it just seems like we're here to really prioritize just embodiment and giving the
Mm,
gift of inner connection and security that only comes from the quiet response to like one's body and oneself. Um, yeah, I'm gonna have a post a blog with all of the sort of like details about the astrology if anyone's just
right.
interested in reading
Oh,
through.
it's lovely. I learned a lot. Thank you for breaking it down. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
and
nice how you do it. Just break it down for the layperson.
yeah.
As again, for me and you both have the Jungian connection. So the archetypical stuff to me is really lovely.
Yeah, yeah.
That
I
was
mean, it
fun.
took me a long time to even understand astrology to the point that I'm at. It takes years and years and years.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
if you read it, it looks like math basically on the paper. I mean, it's really confusing. So yeah, it has to be just. I need it dumbed down for me too. So
Well, you can never read yourself, right? As anything, you can never treat yourself. It's a holographic model. One piece, the hologram is you can cut a piece of it and you can shoot a laser and the whole thing shows up. To me, it's a holographic model. It's one piece that can really have a wonderful explanation of how things are, but that can be with anything, right? But this is a very complete system, for lack of a better word. So it can be very used in these times where change is so quick for
yeah.
us to give a roadmap. So yeah, I enjoyed that. That was great, Rebecca.
Well, thanks, Abdi. And if you're interested
Pleasure.
about Abdi as well, visit his website, which will be in the show notes, but www.abdiassadi.com. And of course, if you're interested in me, rebeccaconran.com. And yeah, it's been lovely speaking to you. Thanks, Abdi.
Same. My pleasure.